crimes I witnessed when I was working for the coroner. Stay tuned and find out.
Are you ready for true tales from a real undertaker? Everything from strange situations to crazy paranormal experiences. For over 20 years, Mark Tofson was a funeral director and embalmer working everywhere from California to Japan. Get set to hear about his hauntingly crazy adventures.
Hello YouTube, I'm Mark. I'm a retired funeral director. Did it for over 20 years. Today I'm coming to you from Glen Rose, Texas, a beautiful town close to Fort Worth. Right now we're in a park next to the river. A lot of people are out swimming because it's kind of warm. Um, this park also has a lot of these old buildings that they brought over from around the state and the town. As you can see here, I'm in front of an old cabin. So today I'm going to tell you about 3 incidents I had with where people actually were doing some crimes in front of us. The first one was we were out cleaning my van for the coroner's. And the coroner's office is located right in the parking lot of the jail and sheriff's office. While we were out there, a car went through a red light and didn't stop and almost caused an accident. And then next thing we knew, this blue car drives up and stops right in the middle of the intersection, and 2 guys jump out, start shooting at him. Well, one had a pistol, the other had a Mac 10. Back then, I think every gangbanger had a Mac 10 because they were cheap and easy to get. They looked at us, and we jumped behind the car because we were in the sheriff's department lot. They jumped in the car and took off after the other car. At that point, the deputies inside heard the fire and came out and fire. They came out and they asked us what was going on. We told them. They jumped in their cars and chased them. I don't know what the outcome of that was. The second one was we'd gotten a call to a house where a man had passed away on the sofa. His girlfriend had found him. And it turns out that they didn't find any trauma, so they figured he probably OD'd. They were going to release him to us. We were getting ready to take him off the couch when all of a sudden a man comes running out of the bedroom outside the front door. Well, the officers chased him, of course, and they told us to get out of the house because at that point they were afraid it might be a homicide. We went outside and were watching, and the man ran across the street to this apartment building, and they had a chain link enclosure for their trash dumpsters, and he ran in there. There was a little gate on it. He opened the gate and ran in. Well, he hid behind the 2 dumpsters, and the cops came up and they had their guns out. Well, they told him, you need to come out. Well, he said no. Well, they asked him several times. So then they called another unit in that had a dog. So then they told him, hey, we're going to send the dog in there if you don't come out. Again, he refused. So they ended up sending the dog in there, and the dog tore him up a little bit. He was screaming, and they told him, okay, come on out, and they got the dog out of there, and he said no. And they said, well, we're going to send the dog back in. So they sent the dog in again, tore him up some more. He was screaming and help. They ended up calling the dog off again. Okay, come out. No. So they sent the dog in again. Well, by this time the guy had blood all over his shirt and there was blood everywhere. And finally the dog dragged him out far enough to where they could actually go and put the cuffs on him. But he was pretty torn up. They had to take him to the hospital. The third one was not quite so interesting, but it kind of scared me. I was driving back from a funeral home and was in Compton, California, and it was probably 1 o'clock in the morning, and there was a guy run out in front of my car, and I almost hit him, and then I stopped, and he kept running, and then another man came out, and he stopped right in the front of my car, and he had an AK-47. Well, he looked at me, and I thought, oh no, he's going to shoot me, so I ducked down, And then luckily he took off and went running after the other guy. Called it in, didn't hear nothing about that. Uh, Back then there was a lot of crime in LA and a lot of gang activity. I was before the coroner. I was working for a warehouse where one of the guys wanted to be a gangbanger, and he kept asking this guy who was an ex-Mexican gangbanger about getting into the gangs. Well, the Mexican guy told me that he was crazy and that he was mad at me over something, and he said he was going to get me. So I didn't like the job anyway, so I quit and left. Well, about a year after that, they had one of these crime shows on where they were showing gang violence, and they had a 7-Eleven that got robbed, and the clerk gave them the money and no problem, and they shot the guy anyway and killed him. Well, turns out that the guy that shot him was the ex coworker of mine. And of course, at the end, they asked, "Hey, if you know who this is, call the sheriff's office." So I did, and he ended up getting life for that one. So that was kind of good. But I'm glad you came and stopped by to hear my story again. I'll have another one for you soon, next week probably. Um, Appreciate everybody coming. I'm going to be transitioning into my actual funeral home days from now, because that's pretty much it for the coroner's office. But if you come back, I will have another story for you. So please like and subscribe and share this. Thanks for watching. Bye.